What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy, New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Michael of the Almighty Helloween. Thank you so much for being here today. It's great to have you here.
Hello, everyone.
So, we got the new self-titled album coming out later this year. Now, every time I see a band, put out a self-titled album, later into their career, I always think it is very, very significant. So, is it fair to say that this self-titled album is not just a continuation of My God-Given Right? This is almost a new start for Helloween in a way?
Yeah, even though well, we just kept going. Well, we stopped after the Keeper albums maybe, but it's not very far-fetched, to have like the God-Given Right shortly before and then this one, because they both, I think, sound pretty analog and warm and whatever. But obviously this is a very, very different kid with like 7 guys in the band and everything. Right? You understand me, right? You have a good reception?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, like, I feel like Helloween has a good bridge. Like, I feel like there is a sound that defines Helloween. Like, when you compare Walls of Jericho to now and you look at, albums such as Chameleon or Better Than Raw, etc., it really seems like that Helloween has been able to demonstrate evolution but also staying true to its roots. Is it fair to say that?
Yeah, and we don't even go to hardships to achieve that. It's just, it's coming along natural, kind of. Like we're there, like with the collection of tracks that we have on that album, we already had those right at the first meeting that we had at a hotel in Hamburg, where we were like comparing the demos and playing stuff to each other. The only thing that was conceived later was in fact Skyfall, but it was also finished by the end of the pre-production period that we had in November, December 2019. And when the guy Hansen had like a look at what was going and then came up with that one. So for the ending of the pre-production session, he had everything finished and ready, so we could just continue with the serious recordings that would take place afterwards and the drums and everything. And so we kind of finished all that stuff shortly before the lockdowns would kick in. But still, we had to continue for a few weeks inside those measures and stuff. And there was one point where the local police wouldn't let my taxi driver leave his town at night. So I had to spend one night at the studio, which happened only once, because then we knew we just have to leave a little bit earlier. And we kept going. Because like for business and work reasons, that was allowed, right? And so we were able to finish everything, and luckily we had the majority of all the stuff done already before.
Mm-hmm. Being that this is the first Helloween album in quite a span of time, it took a decent amount of years between, My God-Given Right and now. Did maybe like the ideas for this album change a lot over a span of time? Was there a lot of different ideas or multiple directions, or is what we're going to hear on the self-titled album how these songs were always originally written?
Yeah, we started after the tour. Whoever wanted to get started right away did. You can assume the Darius has come up with, I don't know, 30 tracks or what. And then I started doing the stuff in February, and I was finished mid of April. And actually in mid of April, we were supposed to come together in Hamburg and play the stuff to each other. And so we all went into workshop mode, and you assume that the other guy would probably try to do his very best at what he's doing right then. And we have all these characters, and all this stuff actually, fell out of blue air just like that, because there wasn't much planning apart from that. You meticulously try to edit all the stuff as good as you could and play tight as you could for the demos, so that like the rest of the band would understand what was the idea behind something. And so everybody came up with pretty polished stuff already right then, so we already had it right at the first meeting. And we had that inside joke, which I also told in other interviews before, like our manager, he liked so much that recent Judas Priest output, the Firepower, and he was raving about it all day. And then we had that inside joke, and we went like, if we're supposed to do an album, we're just going to do another Judas Priest album, har. And I tried to keep a little bit of that mentality, for the tracks I was about to do, and then try to fit in, I don't know, possible little Priest riffs, that were reminiscent of like real old stuff they did, or something from the middle or whatever, just to delect myself and honor that band as well. Because I think, their music and our music is quite compatible at times, and this is just because that's the way we started, when I had difficulties at school and I didn't know if I would make it to the next level or whatever. I've been listening to that Unleashed in the East in 1979, that music really freaking helped me, to thrive and get through these hard times, and I've been listening that stuff up and down. And then that gave me some strength. I thought, there's some other idiots out there who feel like you, possibly. And then that's all there is to that. And other people had, other ideas of what to do for this album. But as I said, it just came together this way, that there wasn't much of rearranging or any critical points in time, where you really wouldn't know what to do. It's just with that collection of characters, things may fall into place, even though you can assume that maybe some higher entity or whatever is also supporting you in a feat like that. Yeah. Because if that doesn't happen, then you're not very likely to come up with anything at all.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to make a Helloween Judas Priest tour happen. That would be a great show too. I do see a lot of Judas Priest inspiration.
Even though we did share the stage with them a few times before, and we all had a great time.
Yeah.
At a few occasions, at a few festivals, yes.
Yeah.
And I see you got lots of Universal Audio stuff back there. That's your studio there, right?
Yeah, I work in a music store. We demo pro audio gear and live sound gear and all that fun stuff. Mm-hmm. Yep. Calling from work, doing the interview at the job.
I got almost all the audio plugins of Universal Audio that you can possibly have, all the Marshall amps and stuff, and I even ordered that real life device, that golden reverb, right?
Oh wow!
Ordered 2 units of those, and I'm waiting for it.
Oh wow, that's awesome! Can't go wrong with Universal Audio at all. And one question I really wanted to ask you is kind of like a funny question, but like you have 15 albums out now. When it comes to like putting a set list together for a live show or for a tour, it has to get harder with the release of every single album, right?
Yeah, that's ever the hardest thing. But luckily, we have a management. We have a few suggestions. But then you always end up with like the basic tracks you possibly have to play. I can tell you, I can easily survive a show without playing Dr. Steen ever since. But people keep telling me no. There's got to be some fans who really want to freaking hear it. If you don't play it, they're sad and they cry. They go boo hoo hoo. Because we didn't play Dr. Steen, and then it's like this. It's getting harder and harder. Yeah, that's true. But even now for the next tour, if that's possible, we all hope for the best, right? You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, we already made like a little choice of what could be in the set list from the new album, and we're going like don't make it too much. Because like otherwise we end up playing 4 hours, which we can't. It's not really humanly possible, right? So you got to find a way in between, and we will. Yeah. And there's more occasions, hopefully. This is not going to be the end of the world, I hope.
Well, you have very, very diehard fans who always want to hear like the deep cuts from The Dark Ride and Keeper of the Seven Keys and Chameleon and
and stuff.
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, so there's always going to be those fans who want that obscure deep cut or that bonus track from the album or something like that maybe even you forgot existed.
Yeah, that's happening quite quickly. I mean, sometimes you're doing so much work and you're so in that whole thing, and then if someone says like, "Oh, play me that riff of that track," then you just go, "I can't." The last time I played it was 20 years ago. But my son can play it. Yeah, very nice for your son. I had nothing to do with that stuff ever since 20 years. So how could I, right? So we always got to rehearse a lot before there's a tour going on. You have to memorize all this, and I'm pretty happy because I heard that the Paul McCartney, he also said he's getting older and older and he has trouble remembering his bass lines and stuff and whatever he has to sing, right? And he says that like a lot of more rehearsals are necessary to be really secure for their tours, right? So I always thought, okay, I'm the only one who's not getting younger or whatever. But I mean, with that amount of stuff you have to memorize, runs and tones and melodies and chords and progressions and whatever, you just have to sit together and do it till everyone has understood, until you're really tight and good and that you can see the result in the videos that we published, right? And particularly in Rio, that was a thing to be completely proud of.
Yeah.
And that was the last thing we've done now.
Yeah. Being like with your instrumentation too, like do you, for that inspiration to come, that artistic drive, if you will, do ideas sometimes just come out when you least expect it, or do you almost have like a usual realm or a usual man cave that you go into to let the creativity flow?
There's that thing with the realm, yeah, but you also have unexpected little things. Like for instance, when I was doing the the Burning Sun, that chorus melody came when I took a shower, because like usually I prefer a bath, and then I didn't have much time that day, and I just wanted to get things done quickly. So I said, whatever, you pull the curtain here and you use the shower for once. Can be a good thing too. And then under that shower, I had that idea for the melody for the Burning Sun, for the chorus. And I was like, yeah, just what you needed now. Now you got to record it so you don't forget it. And I was just on my way out. The taxi was already waiting downstairs. And I was just like, oh, give me 2 more minutes. I just got to record this. Yeah, that's how things happen. And sometimes for weeks and months, you have not the slightest idea of whatever you could do. Or you have like a great thing going, like with the Out for the Glory. I wouldn't know how to connect the storylines. I was like, okay, this is supposedly something about an emperor, right? And how do you start? I mean, like, what's the beginning? What is he doing? Where is he? Why is he? And then I had that idea, okay, it's a working class guy. He comes home, he goes on his sofa, falls asleep, and he dreams he's an emperor. And then in the end, he wakes up being an emperor. And I was having my pizza at the table, and I was like, oh my God, that's it. And I wrote it down quickly in the notes pad. And then I thought, okay, you add like a few vocal lines, like a few lyrics, and then you connect the dots later when you get home, right?
Yeah, inspiration.
That's how things happen.
The best inspiration usually strikes at the most inconvenient times.
There's rooms even where I know I won't ever have any good ideas. Like if I go to like a different room, like the work room I used to use for a long time here in my apartment, I've kind of, I don't know, I must have used it up. There's none more ideas left over there. So that's why I moved all the stuff here to my living room table, and that's why I've been doing demos ever since.
Yep, it's a crazy too. Like it's almost a scary thought to think that like if you're just like a couple feet away from somewhere, who knows if you would have thought about that idea when you were there. It is like a real. It's almost scary to think about.
Exactly, there's those spots. It can be a tree, it can be a bench, it can be anything, and it can be a location that's somehow magic because of, I don't know, ley lines, or because of like power streams that build up underneath that where the ground there is or whatever. And there's spots where you will never have an idea at all.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. And, you know, there's also people who have a reception for melodies that are, you know, really hanging in midair. The melodies are there. Like, you know, particularly gifted people or whatever, it's like this. I had an idea and I recorded it or whatever, and then someone else already released it. It's been the same freaking melody or whatever, or run or riff even. And then you go like, yeah, you know, you should have finished your stuff earlier than that guy.
Yeah. Well,
Right? You would have. That's the way things happen.
Isn't it a fact that all the greatest pop hits of the last like 50 years all use the same 4 chords anyway?
Yeah, even though there's little differences or whatever, and then you know you got guys who do that on purpose. You know? They just go and see like what's already there, what worked out fine. I'm gonna steal it.
Yep.
And I don't really like that approach that much.
Yeah.
And then, but that's, you know, that's the way things run.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to be open, you know, with like your what is it you have inside your brain there, whatever lobe. Then you just got to be receptive. Yeah, or you've eaten so much stuff that's not good for you that your spinal lobe or whatever it's called there, you know, is not receptive anymore, and then you won't receive anything. So you just got to be careful what you do. I mean, with yourself, where you go, what you eat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I you know, everybody was very excited when Bruce Dickinson was being a pilot, and I thought it scared the ever living hell out of me, because what if he's like thinking of great ideas, or what if inspiration strikes like right as he's approaching the tarmac? That would scare the hell out of me.
Yeah, but as long as you can see the tarmac, that's fine, you know.
Yeah.
If there's like lots of clouds or fog or whatever, then he's gonna hit the tarmac a little bit too early, maybe, or what? Yeah, things like that.
And you mentioned that like there's sometimes where like a story or concepts could influence a Helloween song or a Helloween album. Do you sometimes think of a story beforehand, and that maybe helps guide your hand in the instrumentation and influence the sound?
That's the way I usually do things. I mean, I try to complete the track in my head already before I start any session in the Logic that I use, or in the Pro Tools that other people use, or whatever stuff they want to use, and I usually try to construct the stuff prior to recording anything, so that I already know like a riff, and I have the rhythm, and I have the beat or the groove, and then I know what to do, and maybe I've already had all the bridges and verses, you know, composed more or less, and then when I'm there, this is exactly what I've been doing for the last few albums. If I find that one track, one bit doesn't really work, you know, it's like usually people go work with it, and then they go, yeah, but I've recorded it and now it's on there and now I keep it. No, you don't do that. You take it off if it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Then you come up with something new. And then you go, you know, you're at your own mercy, you know, you're just going, okay, this bit somehow doesn't really do it the way I thought. Yeah. And then you gotta have the balls and go there and say like, okay, I delete it and I put something better in there. And that's one of those little tricks, you know, like you mustn't be fooled by your own laziness or whatever. And you go like, it's gonna work out, it's gonna be good, and then later it's on an album and you go like, crap, you know, I should have changed that part.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, this is like a great weakness for many artists, I feel. Not even just in music, but in painting or sculpting or anything. Or writing. Like artists get attached to their work, and sometimes it's great when you use art to express yourself and it's representative. But, you know, if you're so attached to it, you're not going to let the art itself grow either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then sometimes you're so in the whole project, you know, that you forgot that the groove doesn't work. You know, like you're so set on that, and then you go out and force somebody to record it, whereas everybody's saying like, you know, this track is crap. You know, you ought to change the tempo. Nah, the tempo is great. You know, that's what guys do. what people do.
Yeah,
And then eventually you're mistaken, and you should have changed the frigging groove right when you could.
yeah. It's unfortunate. I mean, it is also because there's also the fear, like, what if you were right? There is also the saying, "Stick with your first
That's true.
answer." Stick with your
That's
first
true.
answer.
Yeah.
So there really is. It's a constant what if scenario. I've always said that if a band writes a hit song, they could just continue their career of re-recording that song with every different version of it, even if it's just so much changing the tempo or the groove a little bit.
Yeah, so just recently I was thinking, because in the bar I heard Bye Bye Baby of the Bay City Rollers, right?
Yep.
And that goes like dim, ba-dim, 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 right?
Yeah.
And so what about Turn to Stone of ELO? Is it the same groove? Did he use Bye Bye Baby of the Bay City Rollers for his Turn to Stone or not?
Yeah.
Did he do that, consciously, or did he just think, well, there's a good groove and I'm gonna make a song out of it, or not? Or what about Duya of ELO, and then you got like the lies in your eyes of the sweet, right?
Yeah.
If you turn the riff around and you play it backwards, you know what's happening.
It's so terrifying. I don't even want to think about it. It's really like scary. There's like a butterfly effect element to it where you like go back in time and like stop that song from ever being made, and then think about how many bands don't exist because of that song being made or something like that. So
that's it, and it's all like a bunch of magic.
Music is magic.
When it comes down to it, it's all a bunch of magic.
It is, because you create an experience that you share with people that makes an impact on people, and it inspires. I've always said art comes out of art, and I think a lot of bands have taken inspiration from Helloween, and whether it's in the thrash scene or in the power metal scene or in like there's so many different genres that have cited Helloween as an inspiration. So whatever you're doing, just stick with it. I think the formula's been working great for the past 15 albums.
Yeah, I guess that's what we're intending to do. Yeah. All right.
And here comes the final question and the most difficult question of the whole interview. Are you ready?
No.
Good.
Keep going.
How do you know?
I try to fickle it up.
Okay, fair enough. How do you know when a song is done?
Oh, that's when you know it's done. And even though you can be mistaken sometimes, then you can go like add like a final blow, like add like a whatever snare or something onto the end. But then when it's done. Like when you're doing a steak and it's going to be burnt if you keep going a little bit longer. Yeah. That's a good question. When it's done, and sometimes it isn't.
Yeah, and that's what the beauty of Logic is, or that's what the beauty of saved files are, where you don't have to record on analog anymore. You could just go back and rework everything you've done.
Yeah, what happened to me with the Robot King, I had a great intro and I deleted it because I was working on like an old version that had like a different title. And so when later on I had a look at it, I was like, it was called Kings, right? For whatever reason, it was called Kings. And I was like, yeah, you got the Robot King. And so you can delete all the files of the Kings, right? And that was exactly wrong because all the work I had done for like 1.5 weeks was in that Kings project that I just deleted. And then, Dropbox to the rescue. I could kind of rearrange most stuff, that I had from what was saved on Dropbox. Luckily, I had some earlier copies of it. And then I had some stereo cuts that I had done of it, and so I could recuperate that stuff. And in the end, I decided the demo is too long. The intro is too long, and the demo was too long. It was kind of like 12 minutes. So I said, okay, this wonderful intro that you just recreated, you're going to cut it off and do something else there, like a real simple Judas Priest riff. And there's things, the giants that you heard on the Chameleon, actually, I had that idea and the riff on the flight to New York when we went there for the first time to meet some people at RCA. And then I thought, okay, that's going to be the riff. And the giants, you know, supposedly were the high-rise buildings and skyscrapers and stuff. They are the giants in that riff. And so it's like that impact of like you're coming down and you're going the Brooklyn Bridge and stuff, and then you do the giants riff in your head. And the other stuff that was conceived there more or less was where the rain goes, you know, all the chords and all the beat and the rhythm. That because I spent some 5 months in New York in 1990, and that's where the rainbows came from. Oh. It was actually called Sorcerer, right? The sorcerer.
I'm honored that my city. I'm honored that my city influenced some of Helloween's music. Did you go? Because you're not a real New York. You never saw New York until you go to a New York City hardcore show. Did you find yourself at CBGB's or L'Amour's or any hardcore show back in the day?
No, none of that. Because like I went there when it was 1990. That was shortly before Giuliani, right? And in fact, I saw a guy getting roughed up at the bus station, at the bus stop. You know, someone got out of the car, bet that guy down, and just swore at him. You know, went like, "You fucking mother," and he went back into the car and left off. You know, and people were standing there stunned. You know, bamboozled, like what was just going on. Then Giuliani came. And then I've seen a bit of that, you know, when we came back for shows and stuff. But I've never been to any hardcore clubs. I mean, back then it was the Cat Club, where I didn't necessarily want to go or need to go. I saw Firehouse there, I think.
Oh, cool. That sounds like a good show.
And that was it. But in New York, I saw Nina Hagen on like the last day of like a promo trip I had there. And on the next day, I was supposed to go back home, and I saw Nina Hagen and some disco where there were cross-dressers. And she played like half of a good show, and then she started doing reggae stuff.
Oh wow!
That was nice.
You saw some good New York.
What?
You saw some good stuff though in New York. What you witnessed, that robbery, that's the welcoming in New York in a way. You know, like you should listen to Rob Zombie's first story, like his first day out of the suburbs of Massachusetts. He witnesses a murder.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, that's what happened. The thing is, like the first weeks I was there, I was up 110th whatever avenue, and well, the first 2 weeks I didn't make it out on the street because it was like Spanish quarters, and I was truly afraid of what I saw. So I thought like, okay, you know, tomorrow you got to put yourself a jacket on, go downstairs and buy like a pack of cigarettes, right? Yeah. And so I had to go down there and order it in Spanish because like everyone was speaking Spanish there. And then, there was a guy at the corner. I went to him and said like, what you doing here? He said like, taking care of my street. And I was like, okay, got it, right? And so after some time, they knew I was living there, and I felt like maybe they would even protect me if any, you know, things were coming up or what. But it took me 2 weeks to get out because I was afraid of my own street there.
Yep.
And the surrounding. And it was like close to Harlem, right? I mean, there was just that one roundabout, and then afterwards it was Harlem. And yeah. And so I saw the differences, you know, being thrown at the citizens in New York City.
New York.
A bit of it.
New York.
Yeah.
So,
if you can't make it here, you won't make it anywhere.
Exactly. So before we go, with little time we have left, I want to thank you so much for your time and for a great conversation. Is there just anything else with Helloween that you would like to promote? Like when this bullshit virus that shall not be named is finally behind us, we'll be seeing Helloween on the road quite a bit, right?
Yeah, there's one thing I wanted to add. You know, I'm surely no one, you know, to tell any New Yorkers anything about the hometown. So, I mean, I just wanted to apologize for these wannabe, you know, Mr. Know-It-All stories. You know, don't get me wrong.
It's all good. It's all good. I wasn't born and raised here. I moved here when I was 18. So we all have our own
But,
stories, whether you were born or raised here, whether you're a tourist. Everybody has their own
yeah,
experience. That's what makes it New York.
that happens to a few people, obviously. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
But thank you so much, everybody. Michael of Helloween. Be sure to check out the self-titled album coming out very soon via Nuclear Blast. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.